Hey AP. In this video, I want to go over some class inheritance to give you some real world examples. Well, I say real world, but I'm going to give you close to real world examples for inheritance and then maybe a little fun one as well. So yeah, let's get right down to it. All right, so let's start with modeling a account. This is going to be a general account that we have for something, and we'll reveal what that is here in just a second. So let's imagine that every user account that exists in the history of time has something like username. Let's just do this. Let's do first name, last name, and then we'll do, what's a good one here? Phone. Keep it simple, that we don't have to type too much, all right? And so we'll start with, every account is going to need these things. Phone. Why am I typing it this way? Being a big weirdo. All right, here we go. All right. Basic things that this might want to do is like get name. So we'll say self, and then we'll just say return self dot first name. Or we'll do an f string here. So we'll do. Actually, let's do this. We'll do self dot get full name. Yeah, let's do it this way. We'll do real fancy. We're going to return a tuple. First name self dot last name. That'll be what we return if we want to get the full name from another. Let's say it's from another, part of the program. We want to get the full name as a useful programmatic tool, not necessarily just a string. And then we'll define a repr method so we can see the string, the representation of this person, this account, I should say. That's all they are to us. It's just an account. We don't care about you. Self.last name, and then the phone number, self.phone. Okay, cool. Okay, let's go ahead and do a couple of accounts here. We'll say Mark is an account. His first name is Mark, last name is Zuckerberg, and his phone number, let's leave it a string, 502-555-1111. It's probably a real phone number, sorry. We'll do Jarvis, account, Jarvis Johnson. And that will be 502-111-55555. Okay, there's a couple of accounts for us, and so we should run our code, make sure they're working correctly. We'll say mark.name, mark.full, mark.firstname, that's what I want to say. Jarvis.firstname, and we do like a mark.get full name, yeah, and we get Mark Zuckerberg. We could say mark.get full name 0. What is at the 0th index of this tuple? It is Mark. Okay, so we've got some data there. Well, this is pretty basic, okay? This is like what we would say is universal to every account on the planet. And so what if we wanted to have all of this data about every account that we create, but we want to have some sort of special accounts that exist out there. So the classic example that we can use, and I'm going to be honest with you guys, it's not the best example in the world because we're going to talk about why that is in just a second. But we're going to do it anyway just so you can kind of see. What we're going to do is we're going to inherit the methods and data of account for something that's a little more specific, something that is actually that has extended functionality, but still every single account we create wants to have these basic things, okay? So this might be what we would call an abstract class if we were working in like C# or Java, meaning that an account as an abstraction is always going to have a first name, last name, phone number. But we might not ever actually use this account in our program, this account class in our program, believe it or not. We'll actually use it as sort of a blueprint for other blueprints, if that's believable. It's totally possible, okay? That's how that real programming works out in the real world. But we're doing sort of real world today. So here we go. We're going to make a checking account. And how do we inherit the data from account? Well, we can say checking account. Okay, so basically what this is doing is saying that checking account is a type of account, right? It's inheriting some stuff from account. Now, the next part's a little weird. When we define the init method for this, what we would call child, or we would call it a child class or a subclass of account, we have to do something a little special. So what we're going to do is we're going to say init, and then we're going to say self, first name, last name, phone, and starting balance. And we'll say starting balance by default is 0. So it's a little weird, right? We're doing this like almost the exact same way as we did account, but see what happens next. What we'll do is we'll say super init, and then what do we need to inherit from our super class or our parent class? Well, we need to inherit the first name, last name, and phone. Anytime we create a checking account class, it builds a relationship with the original account class where we initialize it with the first name, last name, and phone, but in this case we're using the account class as that sort of initialization method. And I'm going to show you how that works like a little more clearly in just a second, okay? Let's do a couple more things that we would associate with a checking account. Let's say like show balance. So that's a new method, right? And then we can just return f-string with self.starting balance. And actually we need to change, we shouldn't call this starting balance because that doesn't make any sense. We should just go with balance. A little adjustment there to our coding choices. Okay, we'll stick with that, and then let's define a new repr method. Right. So, actually, you know what? Hold on. Let's leave it at this because I want to show you a couple things. Okay, we're gonna leave it just like that, and
Okay.
let's go ahead. Let's make a checking account. We'll call it Susan, and rather than saying account, we're gonna say account like that, but we still got to give it Susan, and then Thomas, we'll say. Phone number is 502-515-1515. That's right. Amazingly, I did that somehow. And the balance will give her $10,000 to start with, or 10,000 whatever. All right, I'll run my code. And now, let's see. Let's do Mark Jarvis. Now watch this. Notice that Susan is a checking account and does not have a repr method. What's going to happen? Check that out, right? So Susan is a checking account, right? The instance of Susan is a checking account, but we didn't define a new repr method, so what repr method does it use? Well, it uses the one from checking account. It uses the one from the super class or the parent class, which is account. So there's one bit of inheritance in action. Notice that we still get this Susan.getFullName. We still have access to this because Susan is an account. So we get all these features from Susan. Let's do another little experiment here. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and make a change that doesn't really make any sense practically, but I want to do it to make a point. I'm going to go change my first name and last name up in account to be something else permanently. Okay. So now, no matter what happens for what I type into first name and last name, it's going to be Jim Jam, always, okay? All right, now if I run this, check it out. So I say mark.firstname, Jim. These make sense. But then I say Susan.firstname, and I still get Jim. And again, that's because Susan, the checking account, is inheriting this data from account. That's inheritance. Now, there's a lot more to it, but that's the basic, I guess, coding visual example of inheritance, how we can use an existing class to sort of derive another new class with some already pre-built functionality, which is really handy if you don't just have 12 lines of code, you actually have hundreds of lines of code for one class, and you want to inherit some of that functionality for a subclass, or a child class is what we also call it. One more thing I want to show you is that if I try to say mark.showBalance, which is a checking account method, what's going to happen? Nothing. If I say Susan.showBalance, though, whoops. What did I forget? Oh, I forgot to add the actual attribute for balance. I'm glad you saw this. Okay, so we're inheriting this data. You were probably just sitting there wondering, like, when is he going to do that? Well, now you know. We're inheriting this data, right, from the superclass, but we have to still, if we've got data that's specific to our checking account, we have to do that just like we always did. And there you go. So now if we run this again, we should see Susan.showBalance. Boom, 10,000 bucks. Why is that a string? Oh, because I made it a string. Okay, there you go. Basic inheritance. I'm going to show you another fun example that's a little trickier to understand as we go